When I'm young, I play with a button. I make a runner like this in the floor. I do like this. I put a number 1, number 2, number 3, and number 4. Then I put the button in the floor and do like this. When they go inside the square, I win. When they don't go outside, I lose. Me and my friends.
What I like to do when I was a kid, oh God, there was so many things. I grew up in the Bronx, so the big thing that I liked when it was summer, it was hot, when they opened up the fire hydrant and the cold water would splash and we would go in and cool off. And then you know what? We wanted to raise some money, so we would have car washes right then sporadically. Put on shows, we used to pretend, we used to sing and dance. And then I used to love to go into my grandmother's room. And one of my favorite shows was Lost in Space. And we used to pretend that my grandmother's bedroom was the spaceship. And, you know, like we would be traveling in space. We had a lot of imagination when we were kids.
So as a kid, I was lucky enough to stay out late on my block. It was nice. I grew up, you know, in the 70s in the Bronx. A bunch of Italian kids playing together till 11 o'clock at night. And we were creative and we did different kind of games. And it was like cool because we were safe, we weren't afraid. We all got together and we all got along. We spoke Italian, we spoke English. We went to the same grammar school. We played manhunt. We played with the Spalding. We used the sewer caps as bases. We had fun. It was cool. We played 7-Up against the wall. So that was my thing I loved about growing up.
So when I was younger, I played with action figures a lot. Yeah, I guess I was like kind of, I mean, I'm thinking of kind of when I would play alone, I guess it was typically with action figures. I had a lot of like Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle action figures. I was always just really, I guess I was kind of like, you know, I really liked having those sort of fantasy adventure things where you take your action figures outside and, you know, play and imagine they're on some kind of, I don't know, adventure or something. I guess with friends, more of like the outside type games, like a, you know, what's that game? Manhunt, where, you know, where you go around with the flashlights. It's like basically just tag.
Going to the pool.
I like playing video games in my room with my friends. Times growing up.
I like to play iMessage games with my friends because I think it's a good way to talk with your friends and play with them outside of school but also online.
I like playing video games like Fortnite and NHL with my friends.
Why?
Because like we like socialize with each other, you can socialize with your friends online and stuff like that.
I like to play Talkie to the iPad because it's fun and you run and you get different kind of things and there's different kind of animals.
One thing I've noticed that's kind of interesting about people who are around my age is that it seems like we're the last people who can remember the world before the internet. And so anyway, I was born in 1988. And so I remember being a little kid in sort of the early to mid 90s, and just, you know, a computer, we had computers. I mean, you know, I remember computers at school, but a computer was more like this tool, right? Like a calculator or something like that. You know, you could write Word docs on it and stuff. It wasn't this thing that connected you to the rest of the world at that point. And then I just remember it undergoing this like change, right, where now a computer becomes this thing that it like broadens the horizon and everyone starts shopping online and people are talking about, I read this on the internet or I saw this on the internet or etc. And obviously that just kind of snowballed, but just being sort of it seems anyway, because people who are just 4 or 5 years younger than me, they can't remember that period. And anyway, I just think that's kind of interesting because, you know, because it's, you know, anyone who's born really after me now has just grown up with, you know, the internet and on top of that social media and all that other stuff. Whereas, you know, I can remember the world just barely before all that kind of happened.